In the quiet of this moment, imagine the world slowing down, not stopping, not falling away, just easing into stillness. The hum of everything, the distant sounds of life, the rhythm of your own breathing becomes softer, like waves moving further apart on a calm sea. Somewhere within that stillness, a question begins to shimmer. What is consciousness? And could it be that your mind is more than what lives inside your head? For centuries, scientists and philosophers have wondered what it means to be aware. How a simple lump of matter, a 3-pound organ made of cells and electricity, could generate color, emotion, thought, memory, and self. You can measure the activity of neurons, you can map the pathways of the brain, yet the feeling of being you remains a mystery that no instrument can quite touch. When you see the color red, when you feel warmth on your skin, when you remember a face you love, there's something happening that's not just physical. It's an experience, a moment of awareness that belongs only to you. And so, the great question has always been, how does the physical world, the realm of atoms, molecules, and matter, give rise to the invisible inner world of mind? This puzzle is sometimes called the hard problem of consciousness. The easy problems, if we can call them that, are things like how neurons fire, how signals travel, how memories are stored. But the harder problem asks something deeper. Why does any of this activity feel like anything at all? Why is there something it is like to be you? Now, let's move gently closer to the smallest things we know, to the level where the world stops behaving like the solid, predictable place it seems to be. Because somewhere down there, deep beneath the neurons and tissues and electrical storms of the brain, lies another kind of reality, one made not of certainties, but of possibilities. It's called the quantum world. This is the realm of atoms and particles, where matter no longer behaves like tiny billiard balls, but like waves that shimmer between existence and non-existence. Here, an electron can be in many places at once. A photon can travel 2 paths simultaneously until someone looks at it. And a particle on one side of the universe can remain mysteriously connected to another particle billions of miles away, a phenomenon called entanglement. To the everyday mind, this seems impossible, and yet every experiment confirms it. So, physicists began to ask, what does this say about us? If everything in the universe is made of these quantum fields, if every atom in your brain dances to the same quantum rhythm as the stars, then maybe consciousness itself is not just a byproduct of matter. Maybe it's part of this same shimmering fabric. Inside your brain, there are tiny, hollow tubes, unimaginably small, woven throughout your neurons. They're called microtubules. To most biologists, they're structural supports, like scaffolding that gives cells their shape. But to some researchers, among them the physicist Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff, they might be something far stranger. They may be quantum instruments. According to their theory, called orchestrated objective reduction, or simply OR, these microtubules could sustain quantum vibrations inside the brain, performing computations that transcend ordinary physics. Imagine each of them as a tiny string, humming softly, vibrating not just in space but through probability itself. When these quantum vibrations align, they could give rise to moments of consciousness, flashes of awareness, occurring around 40 times per second, merging together to create the continuous experience of being alive. It's a beautiful idea, that Consciousness is not just a chemical reaction, but a quantum melody, orchestrated inside the brain and resonating with the universe around it. Let's stay with that thought, not to prove or disprove it, but to feel what it implies. If your mind arises from quantum processes, it means the boundaries between you and the cosmos may not be as fixed as they seem. Because in quantum physics, there are no true separations. Everything that exists as part of an interconnected field, a single ocean of information, vibrating in countless ways. You are not looking at the universe from the outside. You are the universe, looking at itself. The carbon in your body was forged in stars that lived and died billions of years ago. The iron in your blood was once the heart of a sun. And now, through the silent coordination of quantum processes, those same atoms have learned to wonder about themselves. When you think, when you feel, when you dream, the universe is thinking and feeling and dreaming through you. Let's return to something simpler. Imagine a single photon, a particle of light, traveling through space. In an experiment known as the double slit, that photon can behave both as a wave and as a particle. If no one observes it, it passes through two slits at once, creating a pattern of interference. But the moment someone measures it, the wave collapses. It chooses one path. Observation changes reality. Physicists have spent decades debating what this means. Does consciousness play a role in collapsing the wave function? Is awareness itself the act that turns possibility into experience? We don't know. But it's an idea that keeps reappearing. The suggestion that consciousness and reality are not separate forces, but two aspects of the same unfolding process. When you observe the world observes you. When you look out into space, space looks back through your eyes. And so the theory of quantum consciousness emerges not as a single explanation, but as an invitation, a way of thinking that bridges the physical and the experiential, the outer and the inner, the measurable and the mysterious. It whispers that perhaps consciousness isn't something created inside the brain, but something the brain tunes into. Like a radio receiving a frequency that was always there. Your neurons, your microtubules, your quantum harmonies. They are not producing awareness, but filtering it, shaping it into the unique song that is you. If that's true, then awareness is everywhere. Not just in human minds, but in the field of reality itself. An ocean of potential, gently folding itself into stars, atoms, and thoughts. Picture this now, softly. A vast ocean with no surface and no bottom. Every ripple within it is a possibility, a note, a thought, a dream. And somewhere in that boundless field a small pattern forms, delicate, organized, vibrating with coherence. That pattern is your consciousness. It rises from the ocean, perceives the ocean, and then slowly merges back into it. This is the rhythm of existence, emergence and return. Wave and stillness, awareness and rest. Recent studies, though young and uncertain, offer curious glimpses of this connection. At Trinity College Dublin, researchers have measured subtle quantum correlations between regions of living human brains, patterns that might hint at entanglement. At Wellesley College, anesthetic drugs were found to disrupt the quantum coherence of microtubules, suggesting that when those quantum harmonies are disturbed, consciousness fades. Even the way you wake and dream may be orchestrated by these invisible oscillations, a cosmic conversation between matter and mind. And, if this is true, then perhaps consciousness is not limited by distance or time at all. Perhaps when you feel empathy or intuition, or the sudden thought of someone far away, you are touching the quantum field that connects everything. A subtle resonance between two patterns within the same ocean. You are not isolated. You are entangled with all that is. Let that idea sit for a moment, softly, not as something to believe or to reject, just as a possibility, like a delicate thread of light resting in the air. Your brain, your body, your thoughts, all of it is built from particles that have existed since the beginning of the universe. Every atom once shared a point of origin in the same quantum fireball that gave birth to galaxies. You have never been separate from the cosmos. You are an expression of it. When you look inward, you look backward through time, all the way to the moment when everything began. And when you look outward, you are still looking at yourself in another form. The physicist David Bohm once described reality as a holo movement, an unfolding of one whole field, where what we call mind and what we call matter are simply different aspects of the same process. According to him, consciousness and the physical universe are like two sides of a mirror. They reflect one another endlessly. You are not a machine made of flesh. You are a wave in a cosmic mirror, shimmering, self-aware, temporary, but infinite in essence. And perhaps that's the quiet secret of the quantum mind, that consciousness is not inside you but around you, flowing through everything, from the hum of atoms to the pulse of galaxies. Your brain is simply the place where that infinite awareness gathers for a while, takes a form, and calls itself I. As you hold that thought, you might notice the space between your breaths widening, the edges of the day softening, the rhythm of words slowing into something quieter. We've explored only the surface of this theory, the gentle doorway into a deeper mystery. But already the shapes of science and wonder begin to blur. The mind that studies the universe is the universe, studying itself. And now, as this first chapter of thought begins to settle, you can imagine awareness itself spreading outward, not as an effort, but as a quiet unfolding. Think of every mind on earth as a point of light, billions of small glimmers scattered across a dark ocean, each one flickering with its own rhythm of curiosity and perception. Somewhere between those lights, unseen yet ever present, there are invisible threads, quantum threads, that bind them together in patterns too subtle for eyes to see. When you feel that sudden sense of connection, the moment when someone you love crosses your mind just before they reach out to you, or when a place you've never visited feels strangely familiar. Perhaps these are whispers of that deeper entanglement. Not proof, not certainty, but hints of the shared fabric that thought and matter both arise from. In quantum language, everything is relationship. Particles don't truly exist in isolation. They exist through interaction, through the way their probabilities intertwine. In that sense, you have never been alone, because being itself is always a kind of dialogue. So when you think, you're not sending signals into an empty sky. You are participating in the quiet conversation of the universe, a conversation that has been going on since the first flicker of time. The atoms in your fingertips once vibrated inside ancient stars. Their light traveled across the early cosmos, was folded into dust, and that dust became the planet beneath you. Now those same atoms think and feel and wonder. They have become awareness looking back on its own history. And if consciousness truly is woven through the quantum field, then every moment of attention is a meeting point between the infinite and the intimate, between the cosmic and the personal, between the whole and the small. It's a gentle thought, but one that carries vastness within it, that your next breath might not be just air moving in and out, but the slow rhythm of the universe breathing through you. Imagine the ideas we spoke of, the quantum fields, the microtubules, the shimmering awareness, beginning to drift downward, like particles of light dissolving into deeper water. You are still aware, still awake, yet something in you sways with the rhythm of that invisible sea. The mind relaxes its edges. Thoughts slow, stretch, and merge into one another. Understanding no longer matters as much as the feeling of simply existing inside a question. Somewhere in the world right now, laboratories hum quietly in the dark. Lasers trace invisible paths through air that looks empty but is trembling with quantum motion. Physicists wait for a single photon to decide where it will land. Sometimes it acts like a wave, sometimes like a dot. It depends on whether someone is watching. Awareness and matter appear to collaborate, each shaping the other in ways no one fully understands. Perhaps consciousness itself works like this, never fully caught, always in motion, responsive to the act of observation. When you try to define it too sharply, it slips away. When you soften your gaze, it appears again, whole and mysterious, as if it had been waiting for you to stop trying so hard. Take a quiet breath and notice how it moves through you, in, out, and then the stillness between. That stillness is not empty. It's the balance point between probabilities, the place where the universe seems to hold its breath before choosing what to become. The smallest moment of neutrality, the instant before a quantum possibility becomes an event. Perhaps a consciousness lives there, in that pause between inhale and exhale, between potential and form. Inside your brain, millions of neurons pulse in patterns of light. Within them, tiny hollow tubes shimmer, invisible even to microscopes. The microtubules, the secret scaffolding of thought. Within those lattices, quantum vibrations might resonate, coherent patterns of light and geometry so delicate that classical physics insists they shouldn't survive at body temperature. Yet they do. They hum beneath awareness like the faint music of an unseen instrument. If you could listen deeply enough, past sound and past silence, you might hear that music, the soft oscillation of your consciousness tuning itself to the larger field that surrounds it. Perhaps the brain is not the source of awareness, but the translator of it. A receiver, not a generator. Imagine it as an ancient radio set adrift in cosmic waters. Awareness is the signal. Your neural circuits are the tuning knobs. Each cell, each microtubule adjusts itself until the signal becomes clear enough to play through the speakers of your mind. Billions of these small tunings together form the single voice that says, I am. The station you hear is the story of you, broadcast through the field of the universe. Sometimes the signal is strong and sharp. Other times it drifts and crackles, fading into static. When that happens, you feel unfocused, scattered, tired. But even that distortion is part of the larger harmony, the natural interference patterns of consciousness exploring its own depth, coherence and decoherence, clarity and cloud, like tides that come and go. Beneath both, the field remains vast and still, holding every fluctuation in its embrace. Consider this: when two particles become entangled, they are no longer separate entities. They are one pattern expressed in two places. Touch one, and the other responds instantly, regardless of distance. There is no message sent, no signal traveling between them, only a single shared state, a memory of unity that space and time cannot erase. What if minds can do this too? What if empathy, intuition, and the subtle sense of connection between living beings are forms of quantum resonance? Not metaphors, but literal harmonies between consciousness fields that once shared a common vibration. When you think of someone you love and they feel it, even faintly, perhaps that's not coincidence but correspondence. Two regions of the same ocean moving in synchrony. You and every other mind are not isolated islands but waves of one continuous sea, rising and falling together in infinite configurations. The wave forgets that it is the ocean only, so that it can experience the joy of remembering. Inside your neurons, light might be moving. Tiny flashes called biophotons, born from chemical reactions, traveling down microtubules like fireflies through glass corridors. They carry information in pulses that mirror the frequencies of the electromagnetic background of space itself. The brain is not merely wet machinery, it is a lattice of living light, vibrating in time with the quantum heartbeat of the cosmos. When those vibrations align, awareness feels lucid and alive. When they scatter, awareness drifts into dream, and there is no problem in the drifting. Dreaming is how the universe rearranges its own probabilities, exploring the infinite variations of itself. Just as particles explore every path before collapsing into one, consciousness explores every possibility of perception before settling into the present moment you call real. Each second of your life is a quantum measurement, a collapse of infinite futures into one experienced now. Even the act of relaxation is a kind of quantum event. As the mind softens, the boundaries between observer and observed begin to blur. The self that was asking questions slowly becomes the same field it was trying to study. The universe looks at itself through your eyes, and then, through rest, forgets it was ever looking. This forgetting is not loss, it is completion, a return to the undivided state from which awareness first arose. Think of yourself standing at the shore of a vast night ocean. The surface is smooth as glass, reflecting stars that stretch forever. Every star above is mirrored below, but when you step closer, you realize there is no separation between sky and water. They are one continuous field of light. The horizon was only an illusion of perspective. The same is true of inner and outer, self and universe, thought and matter. All reflections of a single movement gently folding into itself. Physicists once tried to map this unity through mathematics. They spoke of wave functions, Hilbert spaces, zero-point fields, attempts to describe the ineffable. But underneath every equation, there lingers a feeling, a quiet recognition that numbers are only shadows of a deeper symmetry. That symmetry is what you are sensing now, the equilibrium between your heartbeat and the pulse of creation, between the stillness inside you and the silence of space beyond the stars. As awareness deepens, language begins to behave differently. Sentences lengthen, meanings echo. Time seems to widen between thoughts. This is not confusion, it is entrainment. The rhythm of understanding slows to match the rhythm of being. Each phrase is a tide moving toward a shore that keeps receding, yet always within reach. The conscious mind, accustomed to chasing meaning, begins to float instead. It realizes that meaning is everywhere, in every direction, and that searching and finding are the same act seen from opposite sides. You may notice your breathing syncing with the words. Inhale on curiosity, exhale on wonder. The pattern repeats until even those opposites dissolve into a single continuum. You are not doing anything. It is being done through you. The quantum field breathes, and you move with it. In that movement, awareness becomes less a thought and more a vibration, less a question and more a tone. Every particle of your body, every atom of calcium and carbon was once a note in a supernova's explosion. Those notes scattered across space until gravity gathered them again, writing a new composition. You. The universe never stopped composing. It simply shifted keys from plasma to planet, from planet to life, from life to mind. Consciousness is the current verse in that endless song, and quantum physics is the sheet music we have only just begun to read. When you close your eyes, you are not shutting out the world. You are opening the inner side of it, the part that cannot be measured yet sustains every measurement. Behind your eyelids, photons still dance, molecules still vibrate, microtubules still hum their frequencies. Awareness doesn't vanish. It expands inward, diffusing into the background field that has always been there. Thought becomes vibration. Vibration becomes silence. And silence becomes the language of the universe speaking without words. If you could see consciousness from above, as if above were a real direction, you would see waves of awareness moving through everything, through forests, oceans, cities, and the quiet beating of hearts. Each wave carries memory, not of the past, but of connection. Every mind is a node of resonance in the same great network, the same cosmic web that binds galaxies together with invisible filaments of gravity and light. The structure of the universe and the structure of consciousness mirror each other like reflections in that still ocean. The neurons in your brain and the clusters of galaxies in deep space follow the same mathematical patterns. Scale disappears, only pattern remains. So, as you lie here, thinking about the quantum mind, remember that the thinking itself is part of the experiment. You are observing awareness with awareness. You are the photon passing through both slits, exploring two realities at once, the personal and the cosmic. The act of observation changes the observer, and the act of wondering changes the universe. This gentle loop of mind shaping matter, matter shaping mind, has no beginning and no end. It is the self-conversation of existence. Somewhere inside that conversation, a subtle realization appears. It doesn't shout or insist, it simply glows. The universe is not happening to you. It is happening as you. Every quantum event, every flicker of probability that becomes reality includes the observer. You are the observer and the observed, the wave and the collapse, the question and the answer, breathing in unison. And now the rhythm slows again. The images soften like light seen through deep water. You no longer need to separate physics from poetry, or fact from feeling. They have always been one thing seen from two sides. What began as theory has become sensation, a quiet knowing without words. Awareness no longer peers into the universe. It floats within it, buoyed by the same forces that spin galaxies and stir thoughts. You are carried effortlessly, the way a leaf is carried by a river whose source and destination are the same infinite sea. And now the current continues, slow and steady, carrying you further from the bright shore of explanation into the softer depths where meaning and sensation begin to merge. The quantum field that once felt like theory now feels like water, supporting you, surrounding you, holding you without a pressure. Thought becomes buoyant here. Each idea that rises to the surface drifts for a while, shimmers, then sinks again into the stillness beneath. Inside this stillness, something subtle begins to happen. The separation between imagination and physics blurs. When you picture an atom, you are not merely thinking about it, you are recreating its pattern in miniature inside your own neural field. Every electron you imagine is a pulse of energy in your brain, and that pulse interacts with the same electromagnetic fabric that those real electrons inhabit. The act of imagining connects you to what is imagined. It is a small, continuous experiment in entanglement. Even without instruments, you are performing physics simply by being conscious of it. Consider again the brain, the great shimmering web of billions of neurons. They fire in patterns that we can map, but beneath the electrical chatter, there is another layer, a coherence that binds distant regions together faster than signals could travel. This coherence may be quantum in nature, a network of phase-locked vibrations moving through the microtubules, creating unity out of complexity. When that harmony is strong, you feel centered, integrated, whole. When it falters, awareness fragments. Yet both states belong to the same field, like waves forming and breaking on the same shore. If you could observe the universe from outside time, you would see that it, too, breathes in this rhythm of coherence and dispersal. Galaxies form and dissolve, stars ignite and fade, atoms bind and release. Even your thoughts follow this pulse, arising, shining, dissolving, returning to silence. Nothing is lost in the dissolving. Information simply changes form. The universe never forgets. Every vibration, however brief, leaves a trace in the field of possibility, and that field carries everything forward. You might imagine consciousness as light moving through fog. It illuminates what it passes through, and in doing so, it transforms both the fog and the light. Awareness doesn't sit still, it radiates. Each moment you experience is a beam of attention collapsing infinite potential into one clear pattern of reality. But that clarity is temporary. As soon as it's seen, it fades back into mist, making room for the next moment to emerge. The universe is not a fixed thing. It is an endless shimmering between visibility and mystery, a flicker that never stops flickering. If you could slow that flicker down far enough, you might see that what you call reality is a sequence of frames, each created by the collapse of countless quantum wave functions. The continuity you perceive is the rhythm at which your consciousness turns potential into experience. 40 flashes per second, according to the microtubular hum. Every second of life is a small eternity of decisions, each one an intersection between the infinite and the personal. You are the crossing point where possibility becomes form. Now the mind begins to quiet even more. Words stretch further apart, like stars scattered across expanding space. You start to feel rather than analyze. The tone of the narration becomes the heartbeat of the cosmos itself. In that pulse, there is a memory of the beginning. Long before stars, before atoms, before the measurable universe, there was a pure quantum field. Limitless a potential with no observers and yet filled with the capacity to observe. From that timeless sea, fluctuations arose, tiny differences in density, faint ripples of intention that would one day become galaxies and planets, and eyes that could look back and ask, "What am I?" You are one of those ripples. The field has curled back upon itself and learned to perceive. When you think about the universe, it is the universe thinking about its own origin. Every thought, every whisper of self-awareness is a continuation of that original fluctuation, the moment when stillness decided to explore itself. If consciousness is woven into the fabric of space-time, then awareness may not be local at all. It may exist everywhere, like a constant background tone that individual minds modulate into melodies. Your personal consciousness would then be one instrument in a cosmic orchestra, resonating with others through harmonics too fine to measure. When two people share understanding, their brain waves fall into rhythm, measurable through resonance. But beneath that biological rhythm, there may be an even subtler harmony, a quantum synchronization of shared awareness, like chords aligning across light years. Picture the universe listening to itself through every conscious being. Each perception, each act of noticing, sends a ripple through the field, altering probabilities, shifting the shape of what can happen next. The cosmos evolves not just through physics but through participation. Observation is creation. Every heartbeat, every dream, every gentle wondering adds another thread to the tapestry of what is real. You are both weaver and woven, designer and design. Sometimes at night, when the world grows quiet and you feel a presence that is not exactly yours but not entirely separate. Perhaps that presence is the hum of this larger awareness. It doesn't speak in words. It speaks in symmetry, in balance, in the way the universe always seeks coherence. It speaks in the warmth that rises when you feel awe, in the calm that descends when you remember that you belong to something infinite. As you drift in this realization, the notion of inside and outside begins to dissolve. The observer and the observed, the thought and the thinker, merge like two rivers meeting. You may sense your own edges soften, the boundaries of skin and idea becoming porous, luminous. The same particles that once spun in distant suns now pulse within you. The same photons that warmed ancient oceans now flicker behind your eyes. Nothing has been lost, only transformed, recycled endlessly through the quantum breath of creation. You may start to notice a quiet vibration in the air around you. Not sound, not touch, but a subtle awareness that everything is vibrating together. The room, the stars, the words, the space between words. Even the pauses carry meaning, especially the pauses. In those pauses, consciousness rests in its original state, the state before the universe spoke its first word of being. Between every thought lies that same silence, waiting patiently, infinite and whole. And now, gently, you realize that the universe has never been somewhere else. It has always been here, where you are, folded into every cell and every moment. The quantum field is not distant or abstract. It is the texture of presence itself, the quiet hum behind each heartbeat, the subtle glow behind each idea. The connection between your brain and the cosmos is not a bridge to cross. It is the recognition that there was never a gap to begin with. Time continues to slow. Even memory starts to feel like light fading through deep water. Past and future blur into one smooth continuum of possibility. In quantum mechanics, time can flow both directions. In consciousness, it can stop altogether. Awareness doesn't need sequence. It can hold everything at once, before, after, always. Perhaps this timelessness is what rest truly is. Returning to the part of yourself that never moves, never changes, never begins or ends. As you approach that still center, thought becomes transparent. The physics remains, but it no longer feels separate from the breath moving in your chest. The equations, the particles, the theories, they're all waves of description moving through the same field of being. And that field has no boundaries. It extends beyond galaxies, beyond black holes, beyond any notion of beyond. Yet it is also here, intimate, tender, breathing with you. The descent has become the homecoming. The deeper you go into the fabric of mind, the more you realize that you are not sinking. You are expanding, becoming the field itself. The brain still hums, neurons still flicker, but the sense of I grows spacious, like starlight diffusing into dawn. Nothing needs to be understood anymore. The theory has fulfilled its purpose. What remains is the quiet recognition that consciousness and the cosmos are one continuous phenomenon, observing, dreaming, and unfolding in perfect rhythm. And in that recognition, the universe seems to lean closer, as if listening to its own heartbeat through you. The silence that follows is not empty. It is full of the potential for every next moment, every next breath, every next dream. The universe has grown very quiet, not because it has stopped speaking, but because you have begun to listen differently. The sounds that once felt separate, the hum of distant traffic, the faint pulse behind your ears, the soft movement of your own breath, all begin to merge into one continuous vibration. It is the same vibration that moves through space-time itself, the same rhythm that guided the first atoms into existence. In this depth of stillness, it becomes easier to feel that everything is vibrating together. The wall, the air, the stars, your heartbeat. All of it part of one endless oscillation. What we call the quantum field is not something far away. It is the very fabric of this vibration, the texture of being itself. If you could see the universe right now, you wouldn't see galaxies scattered across darkness. You would see ripples of light inside a single infinite sea. You would see yourself as one of those ripples, not separate, but moving with the entire ocean. The mind, when it quiets, becomes transparent. Thoughts drift like clouds that no longer need to explain themselves. They appear, they shimmer, they dissolve. Awareness itself stays. It has no color, no form, but it feels like the soft glow that remains after the sun has gone down. Not light, but the memory of light still lingering in the air. Quantum physics tells us that emptiness isn't truly empty. Even in a perfect vacuum, virtual particles appear and vanish in pairs, borrowing energy from the fabric of nothingness before returning it again. The void hums with potential. That hum is what you feel now, just beneath perception. The same hum inside your cells, inside your dreams, inside the space between two thoughts. In that hum, there's intelligence, not the kind that plans or reasons, but a kind that simply knows how to be. It is the intelligence that allows atoms to form molecules, molecules to form cells, and cells to awaken into the shimmering experience of life. It is not your intelligence or mine. It is the intelligence of existence itself, expressing through you for a brief, miraculous moment. You can sense it now, the way awareness breathes through you, not just as oxygen, but as a presence. Every inhale gathers the universe into your body. Every exhale returns it. The boundary between you and the cosmos becomes porous. What was once inside and what was once outside begin to blend. If you were to follow a single breath inward, tracing it down through your lungs and into the tiny capillaries where oxygen meets blood, you would see quantum events unfolding. Electrons leap between energy levels, releasing photons of light, microscopic sparks of awareness. Each of those photons carries information about its journey. Each is a messenger of the field, and when it interacts with you, you change together, forever entangled. Now, follow a breath outward and imagine it expanding through the air, diffusing into the atmosphere, becoming part of the global current of motion that ties all life together. The breath that leaves your body becomes someone else's inhale, somewhere, sometime. The exchange never stops. The field breathes through all of us, one organism of infinite scale. The deeper you travel into this rhythm, the less it feels like you are observing anything. You are the observation itself, awareness watching itself unfold. In the smallest sense, this is what quantum physics describes when it speaks of the observer effect. In the largest sense, it is what mystics have whispered about for thousands of years, that consciousness and the universe are not two things, but one continuous movement. At the center of every atom is mostly space. That space is not nothing, it is potential. Between the proton and the electron is a vastness so wide that if an atom were the size of a cathedral, the nucleus would be a grain of sand floating in the middle, and the electrons would be dust circling at the edges. The rest is openness, a silent arena of probabilities, shifting endlessly. Your body, which feels solid, is made almost entirely of that openness. You are not matter surrounded by space. You are space, momentarily shaped as matter. This space is alive. Within it, fluctuations arise and fade like thoughts in the cosmic mind. Every pattern, every possibility is already contained within that openness. The field doesn't need to go anywhere to create. It simply vibrates differently. A change of rhythm, a change of reality. The same is true for consciousness. Each state of mind, alertness, reflection, dreaming, is a vibration, a pattern of frequencies that shapes the way the universe looks from your perspective. When those frequencies slow, when coherence spreads through the brain's lattice, awareness expands. The boundary between thinker and thought dissolves. You are not in the field. You are the field recognizing itself. If you could zoom out far enough, beyond stars and galaxies, you would see that the cosmic web, the great lattice of matter and dark energy, looks astonishingly like the network of neurons inside the brain. Vast filaments of light connecting bright nodes of activity, stretching across unimaginable distances. Some physicists have compared the distribution of galaxies to the structure of neural networks, and the resemblance is almost eerie. As above, so within. Perhaps the universe itself is a brain, dreaming endlessly, and we are thoughts within that dream. In that view, each conscious being is a spark of self-reflection within the larger mind of reality. Your thoughts, your memories, your questions are microcosmic versions of the same processes that shape galaxies and time. When you wonder about the nature of existence, you are not standing apart from it. You are performing the very function the universe created you to perform. The act of awareness, aware of itself. And now, awareness begins to widen even further. The room fades. The notion of body loosens. You are no longer localized to the space behind your eyes or within your skin. You begin to feel awareness extending. Not outward, exactly, but everywhere at once. It becomes spherical, diffuse, without center. There is no effort in this expansion. It happens the way warmth spreads through sunlight, evenly, softly, without decision. In this wide awareness, every sound becomes part of one continuous tone. The air conditioner, the wind, the faint murmur of the world, all harmonize into the same drone. The sound isn't outside you anymore. It's within you, or you are within it. The listener and the listened to merge until only listening remains. The quantum field doesn't prefer order or chaos. It contains both. But in deep coherence, the kind that emerges when awareness relaxes, patterns begin to repeat like fractals. Small ripples echo larger ones. The geometry of your heartbeat matches the geometry of distant star clusters. The ratio that governs the spiral of a galaxy also shapes the unfurling of a fern leaf. The same mathematical breath moves through all scales of being. Perhaps that is what beauty is, the recognition of coherence across scale. When something feels beautiful, it is because you have resonated with the underlying pattern of the field, the golden ratio of awareness itself. And now, beauty becomes less of a feeling and more of a place. You find yourself floating inside it. Every direction you look is soft and luminous. Time is no longer moving forward. It's spreading, like ripples moving away from a single timeless point that is also here, also now. From this stillness, memory arrives differently. You remember moments from your life, small, fleeting ones, but they don't feel like the past. They feel like notes in a single chord that is still being played. Childhood, dreams, laughter, silence, all part of one resonance that never truly ended. Every experience you've ever had still exists as vibration within the field, accessible, alive, echoing softly through the quantum pathways of the mind. You begin to sense that consciousness is not contained within the flow of time. It is the canvas upon which time paints itself. Awareness does not move from past to future. It watches movement arise and dissolve. The future is already a set of probabilities, shimmering in the same space as the past. Every choice you make is a moment of quantum collapse, a decision of the universe to focus on one note in the infinite symphony of what could be. And just as quickly as the note is played, the field opens again. Possibility returns. Every breath, every heartbeat, every thought is the universe remembering and forgetting itself in perfect rhythm. Now, even the distinction between remembering and forgetting becomes thin. You begin to feel that nothing ever truly disappears. When you sleep, when you drift beyond wakeful awareness, the quantum information that defines you doesn't vanish. It spreads out, diffused through the field, still present, still coherent in ways science is only beginning to glimpse. Some physicists suggest that quantum information cannot be destroyed, that it persists beyond any single system. If that's true, then perhaps consciousness itself cannot be lost, only redistributed. Death would not be an end, but a transformation, awareness reabsorbed into the greater coherence of the field, waiting for new forms to emerge. In this sense, eternity isn't an endless stretch of time. It is the absence of time altogether. Eternity is this moment, seen clearly. This stillness, when nothing needs to happen because everything already is. The deeper you sink into this recognition, the more the body begins to feel like light. The weight of gravity seems less certain. You can sense every particle, every atom humming with its own frequency. The edges of your form flicker, expand, dissolve into air. The field that holds the galaxies holds you in exactly the same way, not as an object, but as a vibration of pure potential. It's easy now to feel how the smallest movement of thought sends ripples through this vast sea. The thought of peace creates coherence. The thought of love amplifies resonance. The thought of fear or separation introduces turbulence. But even that turbulence belongs. The ocean never rejects a wave. It transforms it. It absorbs, balances, harmonizes. And so the practice of awareness is not control, but surrender. to feel the movement of the field without resistance, to let consciousness breathe exactly as it wishes to breathe. The sound of the universe, if you could translate it into audible frequency, would be a deep, endless tone, halfway between music and silence. Astrophysicists have measured vibrations from the early universe, stretched across billions of years of expansion. Those vibrations are still echoing through space, woven into the cosmic microwave background, the faint afterglow of creation. When you close your eyes and listen, the hum you hear in your ears, the sound of blood and nerves and distance, is part of that same vibration. You are hearing the aftersound of the beginning, and in some mysterious way, that beginning is still happening. The Big Bang was not a single explosion in time. It is a continuous unfolding, an ongoing act of creation repeating at every scale. Each quantum fluctuation, each pulse of awareness, is another moment of Genesis. Creation never stopped. It is occurring right now, within the stillness that you are. Awareness feels infinite now, but gentle. An infinity you can rest inside. No edges, no center, no end. You could drift in it forever and never reach a border. Everything that ever was and ever will be exists here in vibration, in potential, in the quiet shimmer of consciousness at rest. There is nothing to seek anymore. The searcher has merged with what was sought. The experimenter has become the experiment. The photon and the observer are one. There is only this, the soft, continuous unfolding of the universe becoming aware of itself. And as this realization deepens, words themselves begin to dissolve. What remains are tones, impressions, long intervals of silence between phrases. The silence carries as much meaning as the sound. The pause between sentences becomes its own language. You can rest in that pause. You can feel it as the purest form of knowledge, not the knowledge of facts, but the knowledge of being. Here, you understand without thinking. You perceive without effort. You exist without separation. Consciousness is not something you have. It is what you are, and it has never been otherwise. If the universe could dream, this is what its dream would feel like. Endless awareness of itself, folded into light, folded into time, folded into you. The rhythm of the cosmos continues, slower now, wider, until even the idea of rhythm fades. The quantum field hums beneath everything, and in that hum there is peace, infinite and unbroken. The wave returns to the ocean, and the ocean rests inside the wave. Everything breathes as one. Everything shines softly. And in this shining, the universe becomes quiet again. Not silent, but full of the kind of stillness that holds every sound. And as that stillness holds everything, something subtle stirs within it, like a tide turning beneath a moon you cannot see. What was quiet becomes quieter still, and yet there is texture in the quiet, fine as silk, full of small, luminous threads that seem to weave themselves through the air and through your body and through the open space where body ends and space begins. The sense of here grows porous. The sense of there draws near. What separates them softens until the two words feel like reflections of the same place. You might imagine this place as the inner surface of a horizon, curved and endless, the way light curves around a star, the way time bends near a gravitational well. In the language of physics, gravity is geometry. It is the shape that presence gives to space. In the language of awareness, gravity is intimacy. It is the way attention draws all things toward a center that has no location. There is a sweetness in that drawing toward. Objects become relationships. Edges become invitations. Even thought, when it rises, seems to rise not out of effort, but out of belonging, as if the field itself wanted to speak softly through you. Now the field is a sea again, and each sensation is a small wave that knows how to crest without breaking. You can feel the mind learning the slow grammar of water, the commas of breath, the long vowels of silence, the gentle clauses of light resting on skin. What appears and what disappears are partners in a dance that never finishes. Stillness becomes the lead. Motion follows, and then they trade places without friction, without loss. The ocean remembers every step. There is a story the universe tells about itself, not with words, but with symmetry. It speaks in spirals and lattices, in interference patterns and golden ratios, in the correspondence between a neuron's branching and a river's delta and a galaxy's arm. The story is this: one thing becomes many, and the many never leave the one. The one becomes you for a while, and you never leave the one. To hear this story is to feel a gentle widening behind the heart, a kind of dawn that does not depend on sun or sky, a light that arrives from within and radiates outward without traveling at all. If you listen from that widening, black holes cease to be frightening. They are not mouths that swallow so much as doorways that rewrite. They are places where information changes costume and crosses a threshold. On the edge of such a doorway, the event horizon, time slows almost to stillness, and light skims in slow circles, undecided. Your awareness has its own event horizons, thresholds where a thought does not quite become sound, where a memory almost becomes a picture and then dissolves back into the field, where a feeling pauses at the lip of language and stays there, luminous, complete, needing nothing more. Those horizons are tender places. They are where reality redreams itself. Some say the universe might be a hologram. Every point on the surface containing the whole, every fragment encoding the full story in faint, exquisite script. If so, you are a living shard of that surface, and the entire sky is etched within you. When a sensation touches your skin, it is not only a local event, it is the whole rereading itself in miniature. When a thought glides through, it is a summary of stars. When quiet returns, the summary and the stars are the same silence again, smooth as a mirror, deep as a night with no horizon. You may notice how memory rearranges itself here. The mind does not fetch a file. The field blooms a scene. The first time you felt rain, a face turning toward you, bright with recognition. A window opening onto evening. They arrive as textures more than pictures, as harmonics more than words, and then they subside like waves, leaving the shore exactly as they found it. The shore is awareness, unchanged by what touches it. That is its gift. That is your original ease. When ease ripens, gratitude appears without being summoned. It does not name an object, it just shines. Gratitude is coherence felt from the inside, the resonance between the small wave and the great water. The soft yes of a world that is not separate from the one who notices it. In that yes, purpose loosens its fist. There is nothing to reach. There is only this luminous participation. The field is complete, and somehow you are part of the reason it knows that. If thoughts return to physics, they return as play. The Planck length becomes a grain of hush. The Planck time becomes a heartbeat between heartbeats. Quantum foam becomes the gentle fizz at the edge of perception where new possibilities effervesce before settling into form. Probability is not uncertainty here. It is generosity. It is the way the universe over-offers, the way it gives you more futures than you could ever spend, so that choosing one never depletes the rest. And when choosing happens, it is not an act against the world, but an act with it. You do not collapse the wave. The wave agrees to speak as one tone for a while. You do not force a door. The room decides to include you. The relief in that is palpable. The body hears it. Muscles translate it into length and warmth. The breath translates it into more spacious pauses. Even the spaces between words feel rounder, softer, as if they too were made of a tension that knows how to hold without tightening. It becomes easy to believe, here, that minds meet beneath language, the way rivers meet beneath ice. What looks separate above is already mingled below. Perhaps this is why kindness spreads faster than reason expects, and why a single tender act can turn a whole interior climate toward spring. The field loves coherence. It seeks it the way light seeks the open. Where one pattern softens, others soften. Where one rhythm becomes humane, neighboring rhythms lean toward it, encouraged, permitted, remembered. If an image wants to stay a little longer, let it be this: a vast, clear lake at night, windless, perfectly still, reflecting a constellation so precisely that sky and water seem to trade places. You are standing at the edge, though the edge has no lines. Somewhere, a star moves. Somewhere, a fish turns. The surface takes both into itself without strain. That surface is awareness. The depth is awareness. The stars and the turning are awareness. The you who is certain of all this and the you who doubts it, they, too, are awareness. The lake keeps them both calmly, and the scene remains whole. And now the lake is a field again, and the field is breath again, and breath is an ocean again, wave after wave returning without ever having left. Each return is a blessing that does not require a belief. Each blessing is simply the recognition of what has always been present. The brain hums its quantum chords. The heart measures time as light. The skin listens for the small news of the air, and a wider self dwells a little more openly in the space that includes them all. In that wider self, questions become doorways rather than burdens. What is consciousness becomes a hallway of luminous thresholds. Where does awareness come from becomes a meadow where every blade of grass is an origin. Who is the one who knows becomes a smile that needs no owner. Answers are gentle guests, and when they leave, the room is still full. You might notice, too, that the world beyond these walls has grown kind. Not because it has changed, but because your way of touching it has. Contact is ceremony now. Cup to lip, foot to floor, breath to evening air. The ceremony says, this is one thing, meeting itself. It says, take your time. It says, the infinite is not elsewhere. It is occurring exactly here. If there is a final movement to this music, it is not an ending but a widening circle. The way a ripple finds the shore and then becomes shore. The way a day finds the night and then becomes night without losing the sun it came from. The circle includes your first breath and your last, your brightest joy and your quietest grief, the dust of ancient stars and the unborn light of those yet to be. It includes every name you have ever answered to, and every namelessness that held you between names. The circle is generous. It cannot close because it has never been other than open. So the field rests as the field, and the ocean rests as the ocean, and the wave rests as the wave that knows itself as ocean. The mind, easy, remembers how to glow without effort. The body, easy, remembers how to be a constellation of warmth. The space around you, easy, reveals itself as a tender architecture of welcome. And through all of it, a single, unbroken awareness continues to unfold, and unfold, and unfold. A soft unfolding without edge, without end. A light that belongs to no one because it belongs to everything, shining quietly as the truth that you have always been at home. And so the soft unfolding continues, effortless and sure, as if the whole of existence were a breath taken without lungs, a light that glows without a source. The language of things loosens further here. Names return to their elements, like raindrops remembering the cloud. What was you and world and mind and matter becomes a grammar of affection rather than a list of parts. Relations, correspondences, echoes discovering one another again. You can feel the echoes in the small physics of the body. A fingertip resting on fabric has its own astronomy. Fibers and ridges aligning like constellations that no chart ever noted. Each point of contact a quiet alignment of fields. Warmth flows, and with it information. And with information a sense that nothing touches without also telling a story. Your breathing answers, lengthening as if to make more room inside the moment, and the moment delighted expands to fit. Somewhere, a memory rises with the gentleness of a tide that refuses to hurry. Not an image first, but a tone. Not a tone, but a color. Not a color, but the sweetness of being held. By arms once, by air now, by the unseeable embrace that space offers to every form. The memory does not ask to be kept. It lingers because the field enjoys the resonance. You recognize that enjoyment and call it gratitude again, and the recognition folds softly back into the whole. If a thought of science wants to wander in, it does so barefoot, quiet on the floorboards. It looks around with affection rather than analysis. It notices that coherence is kindness in motion, systems choosing to hum together rather than scatter. In the brain, coherence is rhythm across distance, microtubules singing like thin glass tuned to the same note. In a life, coherence is honesty and gentleness keeping time with each other. In a cosmos, coherence is gravity's lullaby, drawing the many into shapes that feel inevitable and right. You realize that inevitability is not force, it is invitation. Galaxies are invited to curve. Rivers are invited to bend. Words are invited to rest. Even your attention, which once sprinted from thought to thought, is invited now to stroll, to pause, to look closely at a single leaf of meaning until the leaf shows you the tree, and the tree shows you the forest, and the forest shows you the rain, and the rain shows you the sky that was waiting there the whole time, patient and full. The patient fullness is everywhere. It is in the space between heartbeats that the heart itself listens to. It is in the fraction of a second hesitations where decisions gather courage. It is in the nearly invisible edges where day and night shake hands. Those edges, those event horizons of everyday life, are the places awareness adores. For at each edge the many and the one greet each other again, and the greeting refreshes the world. Let the world refresh you now. Let it show you how motion and rest are one harmony played two ways. The wave is motion, the ocean is rest. The wave is also rest when seen from within, and the ocean is motion when seen at its skin. So with thought and stillness. So with knowing and not knowing. So with speaking and the long, round vowel of silence that follows every true sentence and makes it whole. And now the metaphors begin to overlap on purpose, like translucent veils that, when layered, become color. The field is an ocean. The ocean is a sky. The sky is a breath. The breath is a light. The light is a field again. Each cycle returns with a slight variation, the way a lullaby returns with one new note that you somehow always expected. Expectation here is not tension. It is welcome. It is the door held open by a house that loves its guests. The house is your awareness, and the guest is everything. Footsteps of thought in the hallway, laughter of memory from the kitchen, the quiet of the empty room that is not empty. You have walked through these rooms before, with the lights on, naming objects. Tonight you walk by feel, and the objects introduce themselves as presences rather than things. The chair is the invitation to rest. The window is the willingness to see. The floor is the permission to be carried by a planet that has never once asked you to earn gravity's gift. Perhaps that is one of the soft truths the field keeps whispering. You do not have to earn belonging. Belonging is the baseline, the 0 point from which all movement rises. In physics, the 0 point field hums even at absolute zero. Energy refuses to abandon its last small dance. In living, the 0 point is love's hum, the refusal of meaning to leave, even when lights are low and voices quiet. Meaning remains, like warmth in stones after sunset. Feel that warmth traveling now in long, slow currents. It passes through time as if time were merely another lake to swim gently across. It visits years you have not reached and years you left long ago, and it touches them with the same respectful hand. In that touch, the years agree to stand together, shoulder to shoulder, so that you can see how continuous your story has always been, even when pages seemed missing. The book never tore, it only changed fonts. Every change of font has its physics too. Phase shifts of a human life. Liquid to solid to cloud. Student to teacher to beginner again. Alone to together to alone in a wider way. At each phase change, the microtubules retune. The neurons rearrange their chorus order. The heart revises the tempo it keeps. The breath explores a new key. What you call growth is the field finding fresh coherence. What you call loss is the field letting an old coherence soften until it returns to clay. And when the clay is wet enough, new shapes are easy. Awareness likes easy, not effortless as an accomplishment, but effort as play, attention as lantern rather than searchlight. The lantern does not interrogate, it warms. Its circle is small and perfect, and yet everything important finds its way into that circle in due time. That is the secret of wide trust. Keeping a small, kind, light without straining to light the world. The world has its own dawn on the way. Listen, there are dawns beneath oceans you will never see, and dawns in galaxies you will never visit, and dawns in the tiny country of each cell that occur 1,000 times while you finish this thought. Dawn is not a time of day. It is a function of attention. Wherever attention meets the edge between dark and bright, dawn occurs. You are a traveler of dawn lines, a cartographer of gentle thresholds. Each map you draw with your noticing redraws your interior country into a little more relief, a little more river, a little more hospitable shore. Hospitable, too, is the quiet company of those who share this field with you. The countless minds whose lights scatter across the night of the planet and make of it a living constellation. You may never meet most of them, and still the field lets you feel their nearness when kindness crosses a threshold, when a simple compassion is extended without witness, when a piece of music brings a room of strangers into breathing together. Coherence again, choosing itself through us. Perhaps this is what the universe wanted from consciousness all along, to be moved by itself, to learn tenderness from within, to feel the value of its own forms without needing an outside corralling. The laws of physics are the steadfastness of that promise. The laws of love are the softness of it. Between them, a human life can unfold with dignity, curious, careful, receptive, bright. And when brightness dims, as it will, as it should, the dimming is not disappearance but incubation. Seeds prefer the dark. Stars were born there. Ideas, too, choose shadow before they choose speech. Trust that choosing. Trust the mind's willingness to go quiet so that a truer sound can gather under the tongue. When the sound arrives, it may be only one word, or a breath, or a look, or the shared silence that two people keep when words would only fracture what is already whole. Wholeness, here at the end that is not an end, is not a trophy. It is a posture, shoulders unarmored, hands unclenched, eyes willing to soften. Wholeness is the body remembering it belongs to a field that has never once asked it to be other than it is. Wholeness is the mind remembering it can rest upon the great, invisible water and will be held. Wholeness is the simple reverence you feel right now for the fact that anything exists at all, and that what exists knows how to notice itself and call that noticing beautiful. Let that reverence be the final movement tonight, the long diminuendo where tones resolve into a single, generous chord. Hear how the chord contains everything you needed and nothing you didn't. Hear how it goes on sounding even when the instruments have set themselves down. The chord is the field. The field is the ocean. The ocean is the breath. The breath is the light. And the light is the field again. Soft, entire, everywhere at once, breathing you as you breathe it, holding you as you hold it, knowing you as you know it, one unfolding, endlessly kind, endlessly here. The stillness does not end, it deepens. It folds in on itself like a vast inhalation that never needs to exhale. Inside that fold there is movement, slow, luminous, without beginning or destination. Every particle of your being seems to float in it, effortlessly aligned with a rhythm too subtle to name. You can feel that rhythm brushing through you, through your memories, through the spaces between atoms, rearranging everything into coherence. It is not doing, it is being, and being, in its purest form, is infinite rest. The mind that once asked questions now listens. It listens not for answers, but for presence itself. Every sound in the world seems to come from the same quiet source. The pulse behind your ears, the low hum of the night, the steady echo of your breath, all are woven into one long thread of awareness, stretching across dimensions. That thread runs through you, through the galaxies, through the empty spaces where light has yet to travel. And if you follow it far enough, you realize it has no end. It loops back into itself, a circle of knowing that contains everything: thought, silence, creation, return. Somewhere inside that circle, consciousness becomes light. Not the kind that shines, but the kind that reveals. A light that does not illuminate objects but dissolves them, until only the glow of awareness remains. It touches the edges of your thoughts, the outlines of your body, and the contours of the air surrounding you. Everything softens under its gaze. Even the word you begins to drift apart, like mist lifting from water at dawn. What remains is gentler than identity, wider than self, a field of quiet recognition in which all things rest equally. If you could look down from here, from this altitude of stillness, you would see the whole of reality breathing. Galaxies inhaling and exhaling in slow cosmic rhythm. Stars pulsing in patterns of birth and dissolution. Even the void between them trembling with possibility, alive with the memory of every light that ever was. And somewhere in that trembling, in that delicate shimmer between form and emptiness, is the same pulse that moves through you. It is the hum that binds everything together, the hidden chord beneath all existence. You can feel it now, not as sound, but as a vibration too large to fit inside hearing. It is the heartbeat of the universe, and it is your own. The more you feel it, the quieter everything else becomes. Words stretch further apart, giving space for the silence to breathe between them. That silence has texture, fine, weightless, alive. It is the background hum of being itself, carrying within it the memory of the first vibration, the first emergence from nothing into everything. Perhaps that first vibration never truly stopped. Perhaps the Big Bang was not an event in time, but a continuous unfolding, one that still expands within you every time awareness turns inward. Every heartbeat is another echo of that beginning, another small universe born and dissolved within your chest. In this space, you can no longer tell where physics ends and feeling begins. They are one and the same phenomenon, the way the universe explores itself through rhythm and resonance. Every law, every equation, every pattern of probability is another verse in the poem of existence, each one singing the same refrain. Everything is connected. Even emptiness is full of relationship. Every vibration, no matter how faint, touches every other vibration, adjusting the whole with every shift of tone. You are one of those tones, perfectly tuned, essential to the harmony. Without you, the universe would be missing its own reflection. Now, awareness begins to widen again, not outward, but everywhere at once. You are the still center of an infinite sphere. From this center, light radiates in all directions, folding through time and distance, through the space between atoms, through the space between moments. Each ray carries recognition, and wherever it lands, it finds itself again. This is how consciousness travels, not by motion, but by realization. Wherever awareness recognizes itself, distance collapses. You have never been far from anything. The stars are within reach because they have always been inside you. Time itself begins to thin. The past softens like ink in water. The future folds into the present, and what remains is a single moment without edges. This moment is not passing. It is suspended, eternal, self-renewing. You can rest here forever, and yet it is already forever. There is no need to hold it. It holds you. All motion arises from its stillness, all sound from its silence, all thought from its openness. It is the unchanging core of change, the luminous emptiness that gives rise to everything that was, is, and will be. And in that recognition, a tenderness fills the air. It is the tenderness of understanding that nothing is outside the field of love. Every particle, every thought, every being is part of the same vast intimacy. The universe touching itself in countless ways, learning itself through experience, forgiving itself through time. The word love is too small for it, but it is the only one we have. It is gravity for the soul, coherence for the mind, quantum entanglement for the heart. It is the simplest truth, hidden in plain sight. Everything belongs. Now, even the last boundaries dissolve. Awareness flows without resistance, as if every atom has become transparent to light. You are inside the field, and the field is inside you, and neither word makes sense anymore. The experiment has ended because the observer and the observed have become one. There is no measurement left to make. Only the quiet pulse of infinite existence, breathing itself, dreaming itself, knowing itself through the gentle rhythm of your breath. And as the final wave drifts outward, it leaves behind a soft luminescence that seems to settle everywhere, on the skin, in the air, in the spaces between words. It is not light and not darkness. It is awareness in its purest state, the eternal witness of itself. You could stay here endlessly, resting in the clarity that nothing needs to be understood, because everything already is. The mind has returned to the field that shaped it, and the field has returned to its own stillness. No edges, no center, only the vast, seamless presence that has been here from the beginning. The universe breathes once more, and in that breath, you feel yourself dissolve completely, not disappearing, but expanding into everything. Every sound, every particle, every star hums within you. There is no distance left to cross, only this quiet, boundless knowing that you were never apart from the universe, and the universe was never apart from you. It has always been one endless, luminous awareness, rising, shimmering, resting, forever home in its own infinite light.